Alright guys, my name is Metagoblin. Today's making a quick discussion video talking about my weird and unconventional rogue leveling build and why I personally think it worked extremely well. So for those of you who watch my videos a bit more intently than other people, you probably know that I made a video long before Classic WoW was released and I kind of theory crafted a leveling build which I wanted to test out for when Classic WoW launched. When the game launched I went with that exact build, however I didn't play Night Elf and decided to play Human instead because for some reason I just randomly went off the Night Elf animations for some reason and preferred Human ones. But anyway, I'm going to show you like what build I actually went for. I'm just going to talk you through like why I think it was so surprisingly quite strong. And I think it's not, I'm not saying like, I'm not making a bold claim that it's the most viable leveling spec, but nonetheless it's definitely very competitive. So let me talk you through the build. What I intended to do was spec a few points into Subtlety, precisely 11, quite early in the leveling process to pick up Ghostly Strike as fast as possible. So why do you think, I went for Ghostly Strike? Well, I saw this Ghostly Strike a long while ago when I was playing Rogue on private servers and stuff, and I never really knew anything about it, and I didn't find much people talking about it on the internet or anything like that on theory crafting sites. Just not many people were talking about Ghostly Strike at all. I read it and I thought, well, why isn't anyone talking about this? Why isn't this really strong for leveling? Because if you're doing solo content, you're obviously getting hit and whacked in the face quite a lot. So why isn't that 15% dodge chance a viable option? So I experimented with it, and this is basically what I found. So when you use Ghostly Strike, you obviously have that increased dodge chance for 15 seconds for 7 seconds. So roughly about half the fight, or maybe like a third to a half of the fight. And what I found is you have extreme stamina when you use Ghostly Strike, so you were able to chain pull mobs at a much faster rate because you're just simply taking a lot less damage, which meant I feel like my leveling was faster just simply by the fact that I was taking less damage and I had to heal less, I had to use bandages less and that kind of thing. I also stacked this, so I went into Ghostly Strike and I stacked it with maxed out lightning reflexes and maxed out deflection. So I roughly had about 25 to 30% dodge chance pretty much passively because I also stacked agility extremely high. So 30% passive dodge chance on top of about 10% parry chance, that's 40%, I would say like 30 to 40% avoidance without Ghostly Strike activated. And then when I obviously popped Ghostly Strike, that would give me like an extra 15% avoidance, stacking up to way up to like 65% avoidance. And then when you stacked it out of evasion, okay, if you decide to pop, because I used to pop basically evasion on cooldown, I used to use it as often as I could, which meant I literally took no damage. So my avoidance was so high I was taking barely any damage, which meant I can just keep on fighting for longer and longer. And it honestly felt to me that this spec was stronger than a spec that is tailored towards optimizing DPS in a short time window. From here I just spec'd like your normal spec, deeper into combat, and obviously I got Riposte and everything like that. Riposte was extremely useful at, reducing damage taken as well. I just spec'd into the normal standard talents that you do, but obviously I was gaining these talents, like these damage talents, a lot later, which is probably a reason why people are going to think that this spec is really bad, because you're getting precision later, which is another really important talent, and you're getting all these great DPS talents really late, which is fair enough, but I feel like Ghostly Strike makes up with it. Another really cool thing about Ghostly Strike, if you read it carefully, a strike that deals 125% weapon damage, okay? I think Sinister Strike does weapon damage plus a little bit added on, which means that Ghostly Strike was actually out-damaging Sinister Strike in a number of occasions when I had a slow main hand. If I had a slow dagger, or mostly if I had a slow one-handed sword, or a mace, then the damage was just absolutely ridiculous. And it was like hitting really, really hard. And at the end of the day, guys, I just found the spec to be more enjoyable to play. I had a little cool gimmicky spell that not many people were using. It was useful in PvP as well in a lot of situations. Rogue, sometimes, like for instance, I remember being in a fight with a level 60 warrior when I was level 55, popped with Ghostly Strike and evasion, and he didn't do a single piece of damage to me. And I just managed to own him at like level 55, which is pretty ridiculous. So again, it was pretty good for PvP, for dealing with melee, dealing with other rogues, and if you could also stack this really well with Blade Flurry. If you popped Blade Flurry and Ghostly Strike, that Ghostly Strike is obviously doubled, and the damage from that was also pretty ridiculous when I was cleaving targets or when I was when I was doing dungeons. But what I was trying to say is that because I had an extra spell in my spellbook on my rotation to use, it just made leveling a little bit more interesting, because in all honesty, now that I'm playing Rogue at endgame raiding, I have less abilities, because I'm only using Slice and Dice, Sinister Strike and Eviscerate with a few others, but that I'm mostly only using 3 abilities, whereas when I was leveling up, I was using 4 abilities quite frequently in my rotation, and I found it quite interesting and engaging. But now I'm honestly tempted to just like respec from the standard combat spec through to a subtlety spec and focus more on PvP, because I'm honestly getting quite bored of just pressing the same 3 buttons over and over again. So we'll see how that turns out, but this is one of the main reasons why I would just recommend giving a spec a little bit of a try out, is because I just find it a little bit more interesting because you have one extra spell to use. A lot of the time it is just a very satisfying spell to use, especially when you dodge an enemy like 3 times in a row with your Ghostly Strike active, and you're just able to kill one mob and then kill another and then kill another, and you can just keep on going for forever. Near enough forever. It's like sometimes if the level was right, like if I was taking down lower level enemies, I just never actually had to stop for healing, because my regeneration would just top me up between fights, because in the actual fights themselves I was just taking so little damage from all my avoidance stacked together, and with Ghostly Strike augmentating that avoidance. But anyway guys, I'm going to round the video off there. I decided to call this build the Ghost build. I called it Ghost build probably about a year ago when I was theory crafting the build, and yeah, I just like to still call it the Ghost build. But anyway, my name is Metagoblin. In my next video, ciao.